It's lights out for Homeland, at least for season 3. Good afternoon, I'm Stacey Leasca with the Los Angeles Times. Now before we get started, I want to give a huge spoilers ahead. Don't angrily tweet me later, right there. Telling you we're going to be talking about the season 3 finale. But if you do want to stick around and talk about it, make sure to hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag AskLATimes. We'll make sure to include as many of your questions and comments as possible. And answering those questions are Mary McNamara and Yvonne Villarreal.
Yes, we will answer all the questions.
Brody and Carrie are here too in spirit.
Well, Brody especially in spirit. Let's get into that first spoiler. What do you think about the ending?
Well, I mean, it was inevitable, right? I mean, we all knew that he was, you didn't see them riding off into the sunset and raising their child together. And many people thought he should have been killed in season 1 or in season 2. And so we knew where it was going. It was just a question of how.
In the middle of the 3rd season finale was perfect. It was, no.
In the middle?
No, I thought that was so weird. I felt like... So my sarcasm didn't translate.
I don't see
I thought, did you feel like that was an odd placement? We were talking about this downstairs, like in the middle. We thought...
I was kind of taken back by we went to 4 months later. Yeah. I thought that it might end with him dying, and that would be like the final image. So that was kind of an odd decision. But we saw in this season that they were transitioning from they sort of walked themselves into a corner in season 1 where they had these 2 characters that were just amazing and equal. I mean, to have such 2 strong characters, leading a show. But one of them had committed acts that at the end of the day, he could not remain a hero. Something had to happen. And so for the series to continue, the focus had to shift to Carrie. It had to be Carrie's show. And so that's what we've been watching in season 3 is that they've been pulling the focus and making and setting Carrie up. Carrie and Saul, not Carrie and Brody, was the main kind of relationship. After we spent way too much time with Dana, but we can talk about that later.
Yes. Yeah. I know. So it was announced that Dana and her mother, I can't remember her name right now in the show.
I can't remember it either because we never see her.
In real life.
Marina in real life.
They
also is having a baby. So.
Yeah. And they'll only be returning as guest stars potentially. So that kind of gave away a little bit of what could be happening at the season 3 finale anyway a couple of days ago. And then the episode leaked online early. Do you think that this anticipation of him dying really was what brought people back to the show after it kind of had a little slump at the beginning of the season?
I think that the Homeland has become, it's such a hot topic show.
Yeah.
And not in the way that like Breaking Bad was where it was like, oh, it's the perfect show, it's the perfect show. Yeah. The first season was so amazing. Like it was a perfect bit of television, just like, and so wildly ambitious and character driven that then, there was like this sort of necessary, or not necessary, but expected slump in season 2. And so now people are almost, I think there's a curiosity factor of what are they going to do? How are they going to get themselves out of it? I think that people have enough faith in the writing team and the stars that they feel like this show is going to continue and be great. We just want to see what happens. I also think right now there is, as we see with a lot of shows, people call it hate watching, which is a term that I think should be stricken from the lexicon. But there is some of that. It's like people watch it so that they can be part of the conversation.
But I also think people watch it hoping that it'll get back to what it used to be. Like hoping, okay, maybe this week it'll be like the show that I fell in love with, the smart, commentary sort of show. But it doesn't really do that anymore. Well, it's become this, like, a lot of people think it's just too romance driven.
Well, that was last season. It was very romance driven. I am a fan of Homeland. I may end up being the last Homeland apologist, among the critics. But because when I'm watching it, I'm totally engaged in it. I'm not thinking about, this, and that actor and this. I'm totally engaged in the moment, which is what I think good entertainment does. When you pull back, I'm very concerned about Carrie's baby because I think she's been injected with like every drug under the sun while she's pregnant, and I'm like, how is that kid going to turn out normal? So there are all these little lapses, but while you're watching it, the performances are so strong, the writing at the time is so strong that you're willing to overlook the narrative gaps.
And not to bring it too much back to Breaking Bad, but there kind of was a little Walter White redemption for Brody. You know, he was able to come back, be a Marine again, and help the United States. You know, do you think that that kind of helped his character to say goodbye?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think they could have like just let him. I mean, if they were going to go with kind of the dark, you know, here's a man totally broken by war, and that there is no solving that he's so broken that he cannot be fixed. Yeah. They would have killed him off at the end of season 1. But when they decided to carry him over, then, you know, when you've invested so much in that character, I couldn't have borne to seeing him, you know, then turn out to be a terrorist after all. I mean, that would have been horrible. So yeah, I mean, I think that they had to do that. He had to be redeemed. And what I love about Homeland, you know, we were talking about this earlier, is that it really does explore the various ways in which someone is a prisoner of war. You know, Nicholas Brody essentially died in the war. It just took him he had to come home and go through all of this crap, and then he met his end.
Prisoner of war in a different respect.
But they're all of the people in the show are prisoners of war. They're all broken in ways that cannot be fixed. And in that way, I think it's kind of a brave show to say that.
The other part we were debating is, and I wonder how the audience feels too, is did you feel anything when you saw him just dangling there? Did you feel any sense of loss? Did it impact you at all?
I could have done without that scene. I mean, I thought that they wanted to show how ghastly the hangings were.
Right. But did you feel anything? Was there a sense of loss of Brody's dead? Do I care?
No, I figured Brody was dead the minute he killed the guy. You know, it's like there's no way he's getting out of this. So no, I didn't feel. I felt very emotional when Carrie called Saul and realized Saul couldn't. That this was what was going to happen. And I also thought the scene with Carrie and the terrorist plant. I can't remember his name. That was really good, where he basically said, Javadi, you did everything that you set out to do. So, you know, the mission is accomplished. And I thought it was also kind of brave that they gave it to that guy who's horrible, murderer, terrorist,
he's the most
horrible guy, and yet he gets it, you know.
Well, there was a couple of really great tweets, too, from last night with people reacting. A lot of people seemed very angry about this ending, but Dennis Crowley, he had tweeted, "I'm not really a Homeland super fan, but that seemed more like a series finale than a season finale. They're going to start from scratch for season 4. So, you know, what do you think about that? They did really wrap it up in like a nice little bow. Was it that they were assuming they weren't going to have a season 4?
Well, they had to have an ending to that dynamic, I feel. Yeah. If you're going to get back on track, you need to readjust there.
Right. Well, I think that's why you had the 4 months later.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really interesting. And as a critic, I'm like really fascinated to see what happens, because so basically what you've had is a 3-season preface, maybe, to a different sort of show, and whether they're going to be able to pull that off, whether Carrie is a strong enough character, Carrie and Saul, and you know, and there are also ancillary characters that they can bring in, whether they'll be able to recapture that magnificence of those two polar opposite characters together. You know, that would be very hard, but you don't have to. It can still be a really good show. I get really tired of the people saying, "Oh, well, it's not as good as season 1," you know, and it's like, okay, let's move on. You know, I mean, life changes.
Different show.
Exactly. It's like take it on its own terms.
Do you think more is riding on the upcoming season more than ever, considering what we saw with like Golden Globes and SAGs, how it was sort of like passed over this?
Well, I think that there has been like this sort of conventional wisdom that the show is done, which is, I think, a function of how much conversation has accelerated around television in general, and how anxious everybody seems to be to call time of death on a television show. I mean, it's like become the new sport. It's like, can I be the first one to say this show has jumped the shark? It's like, it's kind of irritating. It's like, it's a television show. It's not a movie. You know, you shouldn't be calling it after one bad episode. The Sopranos had tons of bad episodes. The Sopranos had weak seasons, you know, where everybody was going, well, this isn't as good as the first season or the second season. But nobody was saying yank it off the air, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's discuss.
Not to compare Homeland to Sopranos. I don't need to get that.
You will be getting many.
I'm not getting that.
Well, and Brody didn't become a lumberjack, so we should be just happy there.
Yes,
but that is a question.
I mean, Dexter.
Whether this will be a lesson where, you know, I just feel like we're in a time of great experimentation on TV. Whether this should have been a one-off or a two-off, where they should have extended, you know, maybe Brody stayed alive for season 2 and then died. I think that a lot of, you know, this is going to be, it's a very important show, and it's going to be making mistakes, and I think mistakes are just as important for the art form. If you're not making mistakes, you know, when you're really at a time of such great change, then you're not trying hard enough. And I think that we have to be willing to give these shows a chance to make mistakes.
Well, plus if you're not killing off a main character on cable television, you're just not doing it right.
Exactly.
Well, one good story arc that maybe they'll explore in season 4 comes from Dawn Devine from our Google Plus page. She says, don't you agree it'd be interesting to follow the story arc with Peter, Quinn, and Carrie? He's so compelling to watch.
Peter.
We love Quinn.
Love you, Peter.
Yes.
Do you think that he'll go to Istanbul with her if she goes?
Well, she'd be a fool to leave him behind. I think so.
And don't you love that she has this, like, prime post, like, up there, like, after all that she's done? Here.
Yes.
Here's a raise in the
Here,
promotion.
yes.
Yes. Well, I think they're trying to keep her quiet, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that that's a possibility. He's a very strong character. What's going to happen with Saul? You know, is she going to bring him to Istanbul, or are they going to become, like, somehow competitors? What's going on with F. Murray Abrams' character, who, like, I sort of thought he had a sneaking suspicion. There was a mole at one point, remember? Right. And I don't know whether that mole was ever discovered, you know. And so, I mean, there are all sorts of ways that this could go. And so I think it had good ratings. I mean, the season finale had good ratings. I think people will tune in next season. I think next season will be, that's when time, you know, if they can't restart strong, then I think people will lose interest.
Do you think they need to, like, start soon after all this, or another 4 months jump? Like,
I don't know. I think she'll have to be in Istanbul with her baby Bjorn. Or whatever.
Yeah.
I would love it if she brought the baby with her
to Istanbul.
I don't know why. I just think that would be. I don't know. Maybe Quinn will adopt the baby as his own.
Well,
or something.
Her dad put that idea out there.
World,
no.
I was afraid she was going to give it to Dana. I was like, oh my God, we're going to knock on Dana's little hotel.
That's the thing. She's Dana 2.0 now. I know there were a couple of tweets. I don't think I had any out about how they just wish the season finale was Dana being offed because I know she might be the most hated character.
At least they gave her a different pair of shoes this season. Yeah. She graduated from the boots. Let's cut Dana some slack.
Poor girl. I know she's had a lot of things happen to her.
She has. And they were trying to show. I think they were trying to show how the implications. Instead of what a lot of shows do is they give people children and then they just discard the children, and it's like, where are those kids?
The brother. I
know.
He's at karate all day. Yeah.
He's at karate all day.
They gave us one.
Yeah.
Well, I read something really interesting too, which leads to a kind of larger general discussion. But The Guardian really went after Homeland today. And part of it says, as ludicrous as the plot developments have been this season, Homeland's real crime is that it's peddling a dangerous set of lies about terrorism. Do you think that this show really has any type of,
responsibility?
Yeah, responsibility towards telling the truth about terrorism? It's a television show. You're supposed to suspend disbelief. What do you think about that? Is it responsible for educating the public on terrorism?
I think, we went through this with 24. I think that it is fiction, and it's at its best it mirrors our anxieties. I think, yes, they do have a responsibility to not somehow create situations that are going to incite anger against the Arab American community, and I don't think that they have done that. I think I was a little put off by the fact that Saul took credit for Iran coming to the table to negotiate about its nuclear weapon. I mean, that was a little torn from the headlines, maybe a little recently.
All the beard.
But there's Saul. But I think that the idea that somebody would tune into Homeland thinking they were going to learn about how the CIA really works, or I mean, that would be like watching Scandal and saying, "Oh, is this how life is in the Oval Office?"
That's what I think.
Yeah. That's what I can only hope. It's like in Scandal.
It's like it's dealing with other things. It's not a documentary. It's supposed to be, dealing with our anxieties, dealing with our fears, dealing with our hopes. The idea that the CIA can somehow fix all these things, we all hope that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you want to learn more about world affairs, please visit us at latimes.com/world, because that's really where you should be learning things.
Read the newspapers. If you want to know, read our newspaper. Don't watch Homeland.
Yeah. Well, speaking of crazy things in Homeland, too, one of our Facebook commenters, Amber Thompson, says, I'm left wondering what's really going on. I mean, this show is the king of twists and turns, and I actually I really did think that Brody was going to make it. I really thought that this show was going to do something insane, and he was going to make it. Do you think that there's crazy...
Maybe it's his twin.
I know, you never know.
No.
But do you think there's even crazier plot twists to come in season 4?
Maybe that's why they showed the hanging. Because if they hadn't shown the hanging, then people would have, well, maybe it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Maybe it was,
He made it.
Well,
I think the biggest twist in season 4 is the fact that Mandy will not have a beard.
no,
Yes.
that's not going to happen.
Oh, have you seen the recent photos of
Oh,
him?
really?
Sans beard?
Oh, that's scary.
That is scary.
The beard is practically a character.
I know.
It's like Duck Dynasty.
But that's where we're at in TV. There are like almost too many twists and turns. I need it to just like slow down a little bit.
I think, but again, I really feel like, and I've written this before, but the thing about Homeland is that they were trying to be a hybrid of, the prestige drama and with the drumbeat of a network, of a 24, of, kind of like that kind of thing. And, when it worked, it really worked. And when it didn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
When you swing big, they swing big. And when you miss, you look really stupid. But I want people to keep swinging big, so I'm like willing to cut a lot of slack for people who are very ambitious. And it gets compared to Breaking Bad because unfortunately, the two things concur. But it's like Breaking Bad was a very small show. What did it have? Like 5 main characters. I mean, this was like out there, locations and international, and I mean, so it's like really unfair to compare the two. So,
well, I will say that
record.
one Reddit commenter did agree with me. Say Rob Solo, yep, one guy. The people watching the hanging raid. The people watching the hanging raid and break down the fences because they're still practically worshiping Brody. They overtake the military force and cut Brody loose, and Carrie takes Brody away. Come on, that could have happened.
I guess it could have
on
happened.
this show.
I was just concerned that I was concerned that Carrie. I'm like, get out of that crowd. You're an American. You're a woman. You're gonna get like torn to shreds.
I think that was like the worst.
And pregnant in public. I don't think that It's like she was the only female in that crowd. I was just very concerned. I didn't think we needed to have her. But, I didn't write the show.
She wanted to
It's not my
see.
show.
Yeah.
She wanted to see, and they wanted to have their moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, one of our very own as well, Joe Flint, actually did tweet your
Joe
favorite.
Shout out.
He also tweeted your favorite saying. While I certainly didn't care for Homeland's finale, to me, the shark jumping was at the end of season 1, not tonight.
Can I just say, I've heard Joe Flint say this every single Monday. I sit right next to Joe. This is like our weekly hour-long discussion about how Brody should have died at the end of season 1.
Yes. Well.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. It critically has really split people. I think that's kind of become a pattern, though. Week after week when I talk to you guys, I feel like the best shows are the ones that are really polarizing, that have people saying, no, that's wrong, or yeah, that was great.
That's right, yeah.
Do you think that's what made this show great, is that people kept talking about it, or are still talking about it?
Yes, and I think that they respect the the writing, the dialogue is always so good, the acting is so good, the moment by moment is so good. That's enough to carry it, and then you sit down and you go, well, wait a minute, this, that, and the other thing. And so it also, then you question, what is it we expect from a television show? I mean, what is it that we want? Yeah. But I think the conversations, again, that's why I think that Homeland is like one of the most important new shows, because it is trying to do different things. Yeah. And so if it works or if it doesn't, it will have explored avenues that have not been explored before.
Well, and I think it's important to note that, like, my feed last night was all about, I'm done with this show, it, like, messed up here, but it's because, like, the vast majority of people I follow, are in the industry. But when you go out and talk to, like, the everyday people that, don't write about TV, they love this show. So, I mean, it's not like the whole world is against what's been happening. Like, people love this show.
I also love how I'm done with the show after they've just watched the episode. It's like, okay, the opposite of love is not hate, it's disinterest. And the shows that I really don't like, they're the ones I don't watch, and I haven't watched, or I only watch them because I have to watch them. And it's like, in Homeland is I'm watching it, and I'm watching it often in real time.
Yes. Well, one more comment or two. Douglas Vidakovich on the FB. I'm so sorry. Hopefully I got that right. He says, the season finale made sense, but this is TV where sensible conclusions don't make sense. Brody had no place else to go and had to sacrifice him for the greater good. Made sense. Which goes back to my original comment. TV should not make sense. I'm captivated and wondering what direction the writers will take the script next season.
See? People are interested. They want to know what they're going to do next.
Although, would have not made sense if the people had stormed the hanging.
Enough with Brody.
Could have happened.
I need him
Brody
to come back
will
so we
live
never
on
see him.
here.
Yes.
Yes.
Just here.
Yes, in our hearts.
In our hearts.
Well, and then there's also Dana 2.0 coming in the future, so his second daughter.
All we can hope is that Damian Lewis gets another show really fast.
Yeah.
Because I want him back. Don't go on the stage. I don't want to hear that you're like doing something at the National in London. Get back on TV.
I don't know. Well, let's discuss really quickly, too. Another show that we've kind of talked about is something to
doesn't
watch
make any
every
sense.
week. Totally random transition. But seriously, this show makes zero sense, yet is hugely popular. Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow. Woo!
How is this a television show?
Oh, because it's so fabulous. I loved it from the moment I saw it.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, this is too much. It's too much. And I'm like, I release the Kraken. We cannot get enough of this stuff.
It's so fun and campy.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's got like Homeland elements, it's got these very, a man and a woman, very opposite, characters, but
they don't cry. She doesn't cry a lot, though.
She doesn't cry a lot. No, she's great. The Abby character is like, one of the great new characters. And Nicole Bahari is like, welcome to television. We're so happy that you're here. And the acting is so good that they ground this insanity. Tom Neeson is that how you say his name? Neeson as Ichabod Crane, and the CG is so good, and it's just
the chemistry is so good between them,
And they have it has a really nice balance of, it's soapy, it's funny. You always get a joke or two from him about, what it's like to wake up 200 years later.
All the Starbucks.
I know, and my son still makes the quote about like, why is everyone not taking to the street about 10% tax on baked goods? The revolution was fought over 4%. It's like, so there's humor, there's like intrigue, there's like tantalizing possibility of romance, even though he's technically still married to his witch wife who's
got a baby on the way.
Exactly, who's in limbo somewhere. No,
but we talk about shows making sense, and this just goes to show you what people are like hung up on with Sleepy Hollow is the fact that Ichabod has not changed his clothes and how they're so clean after all the blood and stuff.
Oh my God.
But that's like, it's a fun thing to sort of
to pick at.
to pick at.
Yeah.
Pick at that than anything else.
It's like, I just figured
there
they're
are
self-cleaning.
laundromats.
Or they're self-cleaning.
He just looks like a hipster.
I mean, he's like covered in magic, right?
Yeah. Covered.
Although it's so interesting, I haven't been watching the show, but I was catching a couple of clips this morning, and it was so funny to me that the investigator, she totally believes that this guy is 200 years old, reincarnation, or slept, Rip Van Winkle 200 years later, but won't believe him about supernatural things happening to these people that they're finding. It's like, oh, that's totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I draw the line. No, I think she's a believer now.
Yeah.
I think she's, and her sister is great, and it's like, just that there's enough, rock'em sock'em, with swords and crazy, what was the last, the crazy tree person, and it's like all these, it's like Buffy, but it's like, and Grimm does this too. It's like we're expanding the world of monsters, because I think we've had enough of vampires and werewolves, and so, but we're not done with monsters yet. And so I think this is another, we're bringing in a whole new cast of monster characters, some of which are based biblical. That's really interesting. They brought John Noble on, which I'm like, yay! And he's got
John.
I know, any excuse to have John Noble. It's like, so it's just, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. It's, and you don't have to, because it's not a prestige drama on Showtime, you don't have to bother yourself with going, well, I just don't think that would happen. I just think that he would not. I think he would have some more problems. I mean, I think he would have a harder time adjusting to cell phones. And I don't think that he would just be. Although I did think was it the pilot where he realizing the guns could shoot more than one bullet? I mean, those are hilarious moments. And she's like, there's more than one bullet. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, well, along with Sleepy Hollow, since all of these mid-season finales are happening, instead of what show people should be watching next week, what should they be Netflixing or Huluing over Christmas vacation?
To catch up on. The mid-season finale, it's crazy.
You should catch up on Downton if you haven't, because it returns in January.
That's good.
Yes.
CBS is airing, which I don't know how I feel about this, but they're airing 2 colorized episodes of I Love Lucy on Friday.
Interesting.
So you might want to check that out.
Yeah,
it's the Christmas episode, which, hasn't really been seen too often, and the Grapes episode, which is classic.
Yes.
So Might want to tune in.
Not the Candy Factory one, my favorite. Sherlock is coming back, so you should Netflix your Sherlock and all the movies that Benedict Cumberbatch has made. Unless you could just, Netflix the career of Benedict Cumberbatch. What else? Catch up on Bones. I've been enjoying Bones. Castle. I mean, the shows. Though I guess you'd have to go to the website to watch them.
Yeah.
But you can find the old episodes.
Maybe
there's
we'll just
plenty.
publicly share both of your Netflix queues, so people.
I know.
Mine was really depressing. It was like showing me midlife crisis suggestions based on some of my viewings, and I'm like, what?
Oh my god!
We didn't even talk
Netflix
about the scandal.
Gets too much into our lives.
TMI.
All the rom-coms.
Yeah,
that's all the rom-coms.
That's probably it. Yeah.
Will you judge me too harshly if the entire winter break I'm going to be watching Lifetime holiday movies? 13 Days of Christmas.
Wow. Okay.
I say classy over.
There you go.
Yeah, I have really
They're
highbrow
very
stuff.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, everybody's got some good stuff. There's, good Christmas movies out. I just usually watch A Christmas Carol, with Alistair
Classic.
Sims.
Now, Love Actually is the Christmas movie.
Oh my God.
Please.
I love that that's the canon in our house.
Yes.
We watch Love Actually.
Yeah, you have to. Christmas morning. It's on every channel. You can't even escape it if you wanted to.
This is like the weirdest chat we've done to go from Homeland to Love Actually.
I was just going to say the Netflix DVR queue, talk about, it's so weird when you have a TV critic and then a bunch of kids in the house and the suggestions you get. It's like we're like bipolar, it's like Land of the Lost and the darkest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Well, that's how we roll here at the LA Times.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and can't wait to talk about more television shows in 2014.
Yeah.
And if you guys have suggestions for what we should be adding to our Netflix queue over Christmas and New Year's, hit us up on Twitter at LA Times, and for more news and information, visit us at latimes.com.
Have a good holiday.
Bye, Brody.